Welcome, thank you for coming. Please subscribe and like for more stories. Have a great day, and even better tomorrow. Smile. What's your sugar mama story? 6 or so years ago I was just out of college in Southern California, living with my grandpa, and asked out a Chinese grad student after meeting her at work. On our second date, she picked me up in a shiny black Audi, said her parents leased it for her. We went to a Chinese restaurant. I had paid for food on our first date, and just assumed I would keep on doing so, despite making $15/hour at the time, because I'm a red-blooded, Korean, American man. So when she started ordering lobster, duck, and enough food to feed 8, I started getting a bit nervous. The check came, and I reached for it, but she snatched it away, got out her wallet, and pulled out 3 Benjamins like it was nothing. And when she did that, I couldn't help but catch a glimpse of the stack of crisp bills, all which seemed to have a similar pattern with Benjamin Franklin's bald head peeking out the top. She had to have had at least 2 G's in there. I don't like going to the bank, so I just get it all at once, she said. I had way less in my name than she had in her wallet, lol. Anyway, she paid for the $200 plus meal and let me have the leftovers. Had my meal set for the next week. From then on we alternated paying for dates. My meals would be $1 or $1 on Yelp, hers $1 plus. She eventually would pay for Disneyland tickets, Laker games, and some fantastic meals before 5 months later she graduated, her student visa expired, and she went back to China. She was really down to earth too. Once we went to a spot near downtown, and she street parked in Skid Row. I advised against it, motioning to the homeless encampments, but she said it was no big deal. Chill. Her English was good enough to hold conversation, but once we were lying in bed, and it was kind of a lull, and she said out of the blue, "I'm funnier in Chinese," which I thought was hilarious, but also sad. Maybe because of that, we didn't text much outside of planning our weekends. I sometimes wondered whether she had 2 or 3 boyfriends she was just cycling through, lol. She didn't have Facebook, only Weibo, or some other Chinese social media. I texted her a few years ago, but the normally blue bubbles were now green. Still, we had a lot of fun, and she helped get me through those post-grad broke-ass blues. Hope she's doing alright. My dad, he broke up with my mom, and now lives with an 80 years old. He's 50, she's rich, and he's basically homeless, but he's handsome, and looks good with her. She supplied his cocaine addiction for years, and then she also supplied him money to chase me, and my mom through the courts over custody. TLDR, 8 and 50 years old, cougar fuels cocaine addiction of my dad. Went out drinking with my cousin on a Thursday night, and we ended up meeting a MILF at the bar he'd hooked up with before. It's closing time, and he invites me over to her place to keep the party going. I was supposed to stay at his place, so I didn't really have anywhere else to go. At the end of the night, she made me a bed in her guest room. I woke up the next morning with a terrible hangover, and people are rushing around, and I'm like, WTF is all this noise? I emerge from the bedroom, and sitting at the kitchen table is my cousin, the MILF, and her 2 high school-aged kids. Mind you, I'm 22 at the time, and my cousin is 23. MILF packed us lunches while she made her kids lunches, and sent us off with brown paper bags, and Gatorades. The kids were less shocked than I was. I think they were used to it. Edit. She was divorced, and lived in a massive house. Ex constantly bought me food, and would give me money if I wanted beer or weed, but would then leave the beer, and weed knowing I would drink or smoke it all. She only ever came to my apartment for sex, and would then leave when I couldn't get it up again. Her mom would drop off 3 to 4 bags of groceries every week. She bought me my second car ever, and paid for my college classes, and helped me get my life on track really. It ended pretty quick when I told her I thought I was in love with her. I was really drunk at a party. I was about to leave, and I was pretty hungry. This girl I was talking to on Tinder lived like 2 streets over. I can't believe she actually did it. She left Pop-Tarts out on the front porch for me. Screwed a MILF. Next morning she made me breakfast, and cut my hair. I did once visit a guy who had a sugar mama, a friend of the girl I was dating at the time. He was this average-looking 20-year-old stoner kid who was living in a nice house in the city. His sugar mama was paying for him to go to community college. I was at a dive bar, and this lady comes in, wearing yoga pants, and a tank/sports bra. It was a Tuesday night. She was beautiful, looked like a hot suburban mom, early mid-40s. Had no idea what she was doing there. We got to chatting, and it turns out she was in the middle of a divorce, and had been moving out of their house all day. We exchanged numbers, and I go to her house later that night. Door opens, and it's on without introduction. Through the night, and later the next day, She keeps making comments about how she can't believe she's with such a younger guy. I look young for my age, so I assume that she misunderstands, and I say, "You keep saying that. I don't think I'm as young as you think," and she asked how old I was. I told her 33, and she said that's what she thought. She was 55. I was totally shocked, but also thought it was pretty cool. Over the next year, we had an ongoing relationship. She never cared or got jealous about who I was dating or seeing. We would even talk about sex with other people while we made love, which was pretty hot, because neither of us were possessive, and it was about mutual enjoyment. She was very adventurous sexually, and I felt I could open up about anything, and be truly open with her, without judgment. We would go out to restaurants, and she would always pay. She paid for us to take one small trip for a week together out of town, which was awesome. She always talked about how she had an older man set her up in business when she was young, and how she'd like to do the same for me. And we would talk about plans for what that would look like. She even suggested I move into her spare bedroom, and be roommates, saying she wouldn't be jealous if I brought a girl home. I thought that was a bit too complicated, and would work only in theory, so I respectfully declined. I moved off, and she found someone her own age, and we talk less and less all the time, but I keep her updated on my life. I think of her fondly, and often, and tell her I love her. I consider her a very special woman to me, and she still inspires me. Not exactly a sugar mama, but I have a second Tinder account with my age set to 40. In the bio I just straight up say I'm actually 23, and looking to have sex with older women. It has worked a surprising number of times with some very attractive MILFs, and cougars. This happened in Tokyo around 5 or 6 years ago. Met a client at work when I was 26 or 27, she was 32 or 33. She was really cute, very smart, and educated, and we got on very well together. She was a bit of a train geek. She liked riding trains, fairly common in Japan, but rare for a woman. She had a lot of cute quirks like that. She could tell you the make and model of every pantograph on every train operation in Japan. Anyone who knows Japanese politics has heard her name before. I didn't know who she was when we first met, but my boss later on told me to treat her like a VIP at all times. Anyway, our work project wrapped up, and we decided to go out for a bite at a nearby restaurant. She tells me she needs help preparing for an interview at a very famous company for a very unique role that they would essentially be creating just for her. I tell her I'd be happy to help her with it. I didn't have any ulterior motives. I genuinely liked her, and wanted her to succeed. We met up again to do the interview prep, and one more final practice after that. She invited me to play darts with her after we'd finished, since she apparently enjoyed darts, and I'd never played before. We went out to a darts bar in the early evening, and somehow we ended up playing a game where the loser of the game had to drink tequila shots. She mopped the floor with me, but we both started doing shots until well past the last trains home. Eventually we wound up going to an internet cafe to spend the rest of the night, but things progressed pretty quickly. She got touchy-feely, and we decided to get out of there, and go to a hotel together. And so began our relationship. She turned out to be richer than God. She would buy all kinds of stuff for me, would never let me pay for dates even though I was making very good money for my age, wanted to take me on all kinds of trips around Asia. She bought me some very nice watches, and clothes which I still have, and cherish to this day. She had a Benz, and an Aston Martin, and some other cars just lying around in her parking spaces in the middle of Tokyo. Probably would have married her if it weren't for some complications with her marital status. I found out about that after a few weeks of dating. It was a bit of a tragedy really. It turned out she was in a terrible, loveless marriage, and had a young child. I found out about that way after we'd already been going out a while. At first it made me uncomfortable to be in that situation, but I started to understand that she was trapped in it, and due to societal pressure she had no real way of divorcing. Neither of them wanted to continue their marriage, and both of them were seeing other people. But due to their very high profile in the Japanese media, divorce was out of the question. We ended up breaking up when we realized having a kid together would cause irreversible damage to her political career, and that a divorce to marry a white guy would be the end for her professionally. That really sucked. But it was the truth. She was the best girlfriend I've ever had. If I'd met her 3 years earlier, I'm sure my life would have been completely different now. Not for the money. Could not care less about that. I've never met someone I connected with so well, really the one that got away. Met a 30-year-old widow on Xbox when I was 19. She said she played Xbox to pass the day because she was financially set for life when her husband passed, and wanted to make some Xbox friends. We start playing more and more until I couldn't keep up because my controller and headset broke. She asked for my address, and after a week, I got a brand new controller and headset. I couldn't thank her enough, and asked what I could do in return. To which she replied to just keep playing with her. Over the next few years, she occasionally buys me new games when they came out, and even a few collector's editions if I wanted them. Eventually, we drifted apart because I couldn't find time to play with my school and work schedule. I still miss her, and occasionally try and find her online again, but can't remember her gamer tag or Facebook. She will always be one of my best gaming buddies I've ever had. So this happened when I was 18. I met a woman at a club. She was a 43-year-old MILF, but very in shape. She owned a couple of local restaurants, would always make me come over and cook dinner. Sometimes even give me the keys to her older BMW to get around in. She took me to Vegas a couple times. Sex was good. It was nice for a while, but she was very controlling. I had to be at her place within a certain time after I got off work, which was basically the commute time plus 5 minutes. I certainly wasn't allowed to date anyone else. I got tired of it, and quit. A rebound girl I was seeing at the time offered to buy me a plane ticket to visit her in Hawaii on her vacation. I got a free personal training session at Equinox Gym. This woman working out there must have been working the same routine I was doing because during the session, we ran into each other non-stop at the same benches/machines, joking about it a ton, eventually then chatting her up the end of the session. Super pretty and fit 41-year-old, incredibly intelligent, with her own private practice doing sex therapy. We seemed to click. I'm 26. After my session, the trainer/salespeople allowed me to stay and keep working out on my own. Then this therapist lady makes her way back to meet Prob since the trainer was gone, and we continue talking and exchange numbers to get together sometime. I figure what the hell, may as well try for this one. No more than 5 replies into our first text conversation she straight up tells me I'm cute, and she's always busy, so she's looking for a casual hookup relationship with me. I tell her oh how convenient, I'm in the same boat. Luckily she lives pretty close by too, so I've been going to hers about once a week for the last 2 months or so just to have sex and hang out. Oh, and she's also really into the zodiac and tarot cards, and she likes to analyze me and eventually wants to read my cards. Whatever, small price to pay, and TBH it actually is pretty interesting and sorta sexy when she talks about it. Now this wasn't a sugar mama type relationship at first, but we started going out to dinner just for fun, and even though it's not date why really, she's paid for everything since. Then it evolved into buying me some nice things, nothing too personal like clothes, but she's gotten me some nice bottles of wine, scotch, a candle she liked, you know, nice gift type things. Well, this week these gifts just went a step further. She's going to Barbados in February, and after jokingly saying I'd love to go, she booked me a ticket because, well, she says she felt like it. I'm also an avid surfer, so she wants me to surf all morning while she sleeps and then basically bang her on different parts of the island. I'm dropping $0. She's adamant about not having a relationship outside of a casual one though. For numerous reasons it isn't for her, and having spent enough time with her I think she's genuine, and I believe her. She definitely likes to spend money on me, but not in frivolous ways like more clear-cut sugar mamas. Still, I think the situation fits well enough to comment about. Who knows, maybe she'll start funding my business. TLDR, 26-year-old me met 41-year-old her at the gym, and after casual and consistent hooking up, she starts buying me dinner, nice gift gestures, and now a 5-day trip to Barbados in February. I was seeing her for about 2 months. She was 10 years my senior. We worked together, and there was always those certain looks throughout the year. She was going through a divorce, with well-to-do architect, and we previously bonded over depressive situations we were going through. It wasn't until I handed my resignation in, and told the staff I was moving states did it kick off. She said we should go get a drink one night. Nothing happened. Then she invited me round to her place. 3 awesome kids, anything I wanted booze-wise, food, great cook, meals, and drinks out too. Very in shape, and we absolutely bonded very well in the bedroom too. It was almost perfect. Except for me having sneak out at the crack of dawn before the kids woke up. This continued for about 7 weeks. I had my car packed and ready to go, and we spent one last night together before I moved. We said our goodbyes, and I drove off. Last I've heard from her as per the arrangement/her request. It could have worked out, I felt. Miss ya, an ex. My mom, who works as a massage therapist, told me her boss, 42, at her spot thought I, 19, at the time, was hot when my mom showed her pictures of me. Ended up getting an ad on Facebook from her, and she told me to come down to the downtown spa where she worked at during her lunch break. Got an hour massage, crazy sex on the table, $50, and a Chipotle burrito. I used to tutor this dumb as a rock high school girl in math, and I always tried to quit because it was so frustrating, and not worth the money. Her mom used to convince me to stay via hand job. In my early 20s I met an older woman around mid-40s in a bar. She was drinking alone, and I stood by her to order a drink. She leaned over, and gave me all kinds of compliments about my body. I said thanks, and that she looked great too. She gave me her business card, realtor, and told me to text her around 2 a.m. I did. She rolled up to my place in a super nice Benz. Woke up, and she was gone. Next weekend she texted me an address, and to be there at 8 p.m., and to clear my entire weekend for her. I did. She had a really nice 8-bedroom house. She was wild, taught me a thing or two, and let me explore all kinds of crap I didn't even know I was interested in. The next weekend, same thing. I showed up, and she had so much stuff for me. Really nice high-end clothes, and shoes. She also bought all kinds of kinky toys for me to use on her too. She made me into a half-assed dom, and I would tie her up, and do just about anything I wanted to. We had a good time. Then she fell off the face of the earth. I don't regret it one bit. She was really nice, and spoiled the crap out of me. She made me food, and would bring it to me while I was in bed. Massaged my body damn near every day. She would sleep in a different room, and between the sexual times we would have long lengthy conversations about anything, and everything. When I was 19 I dated a 35-year-old lady. She was not super rich herself, but her dad was, and she was very much a daddy's girl. Anyway, her dad was a realtor who made a ton of money by war profiteering. Essentially, rich people sell huge houses at a massive loss in unstable countries when they think conflict is getting too local. Her father would buy the home cheap, and if it survived the war he would turn around, and sell them with huge margins after the conflict settled. That was his business. Anyway, he kept up with his rich clients, and sold them vacation mansions in the States later on. Rich folk have such money to waste. He then paid his daughter, my girlfriend, $800 a month to check in on the client's mansions once a month or so to make sure the mansion hadn't burned down or something. Keep in mind his clients lived in Dubai/London, and never came to their vacation home in the States a single time in 20+ years despite spending all of the money to get them furnished, and everything. So me, and my girlfriend would go to the mansion, and just sleep in the mansion for a while sometimes. I've known other well-off people, but to this day I have not set foot in another home as huge as that freaking mansion. Their master bathroom had a separate room where the entire ceiling would shower water. 50 people could all shower at the same time in there. I got to shower in there by myself on several occasions. Till I should get a sugar mama, date a MILF, or just date older women in general. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.